All right, episode 191. We are 9 away from 200. You can do the math on that one. And are you considered a marginal agent? Well, I'm going to tell you somebody thinks you are, and that's NAR. We're going to get started right now.
Bastards.
Track that part. It's not NAR. Or maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it's a shell company owned by NAR. Who's putting? There's an article on that other tab. Who's the first? It's what's real trends.
Well, I'm going to tell you. Inman posted this.
Inman posted it.
So we'll get started in that. But it's maybe NAR, maybe it's not NAR. We don't know. But there is a report about marginal agents. And this is episode 191. And today's show is brought to you by Mortgage Mike.
Definitely not marginal.
Mortgage Mike, and I'm bringing up his new information.
Ooh.
He's updating himself. And his new information, so that I don't send it to the other one, is you can kind of go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com. He says you can do that, but he says go to mmgloans.com.
Wow. Okay.
Which is Mortgage Mike Group.
Hit at it.
So mmgloans.com. But you can also go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com. If you are needing an amazing loan offer, it's going to give you that. Mortgage Mike stamp of approval here in Texas and in Oklahoma. And then once you're doing that, you got to get that home warranty by Armadillo. Get that hard shell protection on your home by Theron Smith.
Yeah. Good dude. Great dude.
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, guy.
He's been talking a lot of shit.
Oh, he has?
Yeah, especially in my Instagram messaging. He thinks he's a funny
He just
guy.
Instagram messaged you just talking shit.
We just Instagram message all day.
Theron
long.
is generally my first comment on something I think is funny and no one else does.
Yeah.
So I love him for that.
I do too. Yeah. So Theron over at Armadillo. Go to armadillo.one/tour, TORE, for all your home warranty needs. They service all 51 states.
And you know who doesn't service
51
51 states, but it does.
It's Puerto
serve-
Rico is a state.
Didn't Joey from Friends think they were like 53 or 54?
When they're trying to do the episode, he's like, done, got 56 or whatever he says.
Yeah.
Homeward Property Management serves all of
Dana's
North Texas.
crushing Homeward.
She is in the other room right now.
Yeah, sending out late notices and saying, pay your rent.
Fixing ACs, onboarding properties.
Yeah.
It's crazy in there right now. Check out homewarddfw.com. Keep your referrals coming. We'll make sure to take great care of them. The fastest growing property management company in all of the world.
And if you need some homeward swag, I'm actually wearing our best one today. Yeah, it's the quote. It's our credo or our mantra, if you will. If you want one, let me know.
Personal service, quality
and then I will
service.
give you Dana's Instagram so you can tag her in.
I was
Yes.
thinking about this the other day. Like, that's really what the online store for the show needs to have. It doesn't need to have, like, only real estate podcast swag. It needs to have, like, that homeward shirt, a shirt with, hard shell protection shirt,
Yes,
right?
dude.
Like, that's what it should have.
Put
in it, like
Theron's
references.
one-page reference on the
I
back.
love that. Go to cafepress.com / the only real estate podcast. We'll build something. It'll be great.
I want to start a T-shirt store.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always been a dream of mine.
I've told you all the time. Like, I think that's the exact example that I use. I just like building businesses, and I usually say, I don't care if it's this or a T-shirt shop.
How do those, speaking of T-shirt stores, how do those, like, I Love New York stores exist in New York and actually pay for their storefronts? How is it possible
It's
to have a
money
store
laundering.
selling crap every day that no one actually buys, and there is one every 5 feet? Maddie Aguirre, I love that you're traveling, and I feel like it's been about a year. Are you coming back to the United States ever?
Probably made up his mind.
I know.
He's better out there.
He's like,
I think
non-GMO foods and people taking the middle of the day off. Shit's awesome.
Is it Justin that commented that I lifted today? Because he's
It must
right.
be.
He's
I
right.
was going to ask you.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry, Facebook.
He did. I saw it on
Yeah,
Facebook.
saw
He
it.
got
Yeah,
an early morning elliptical.
Yeah,
no,
you
that was
did.
stairs, bruh.
Oh, okay.
Same thing.
Stairs
Stairs.
are better for you.
But it was also
I just like your shit because we're friends. I
it
don't
was
actually
also
read it.
biceps and shoulders day.
Oh,
Ooh.
dude.
What'd you do?
Nothing like a nice set of
Overhead press?
traps.
Yeah, military press.
Ooh. Nice little
Yeah.
traps.
Yeah. So
Nobody gives
all right,
a
let's
shit.
let's yeah, no one cares about this. They're just gonna unfollow.
They're out of here.
You know, they should also go to the only Facebook group, the only real estate Facebook group we're part of.
What is happening?
You know where
it's
to
like
go.
it's episode 1 again.
Yeah. So this was posted
Tour Studios.
today at 9 a.m. Actually, it wasn't because I saw it yesterday, and I talked about this in our team meeting. But marginal agents. And this was posted in Inman, and you can see the study as well on Real Trends. And right now there's a report out that marginal agents with fewer sales now claim a quarter of commissions. And the definition of a marginal agent, according to this report, is agents with 5 or fewer sales in a year took in an estimated 25 to 30% of all commission incomes and 3 different market surveys that they did, studies. And so, you know, what's this report is saying is this could be the part of the crumbling of just the real estate industry. Because I guess there was a couple of years ago there was the danger report that came out.
Yeah.
2015 or something.
Yeah,
I think it
2015
said,
was
yeah.
the danger report that talked about, you know, what could be the downfall of the Realtor Association and the real estate, you know, business.
It's just
and,
dues not being paid.
Right.
Like just not enough dues paying members.
They
Like,
weren't talking about dues. They were talking about where's the threat that could totally disrupt just the Realtor Association, the real estate practice in general. And, you know, we've always talked about, is it technology? Is it these iBuyer firms? And really, when you look at it, the mention here is that these marginal agents that are doing 5 or fewer sales, they're also charging the same amount of fees that a more experienced agent or an agent that sells a lot more houses a year are charging.
That's weird because that doesn't seem like new information. I feel like we've been training agents to point that out to their clients and listing appointments for years. Like a long time. Like I mean, I will tell you, if I've known I was up against a specific agent, I have 100% brought their stats versus my stats to the listing appointment in case it is needed. Like candidly, I did not read this article, right? So like, I don't know when they're talking about these, if these numbers are from last year, if they're from May of last year when the market got a lot harder. Yeah. But I don't think it's incredibly profound to think that you are better off checking an agent's criteria before you hire them in the first place. Like I almost don't understand how that's not part of just obvious due diligence, to the point where I would actually encourage sellers to go look up my competition, because I was pretty sure that I was on par or better in every single scenario, right? So like, how is I guess I'm just super curious.
Are you saying should there be more transparency? Because
I don't even know if there needs to be more transparency. I think just agents need to understand, like, if like, I assume we're going to get in a conversation about real estate agents, how you can avoid being one of these marginal agents, and to jump ahead in the conversation.
Sure, we haven't scripted this out.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe
One
we'll.
of our
Maybe
only
we'll.
unscripted episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever.
But one of the, go ahead. Sorry.
Here's what I'll say is number one is when I was running a lot of listing appointments, I always wanted to find out who I was competing with, so I could just show an apples to apples comparison. Yeah. And all I would say is, like, look, maybe this person's better. Maybe it solidifies the fact that you're going to go with them, or you're going to hire me or somebody else. And I just want to know, at least if I'm hiring someone to go sell my house or represent me in one of my largest financial purchases, I just want someone who's experienced enough to navigate all the hidden landmines that are in a real estate transaction. That who's it going to cost? It's not going to cost the agent. It may just cost them a deal, but I'm the one buying the house. So I'm going to have to be the one that lives there, has to put up with whatever the nuance is or whatever the problem is, or maybe it's an increased cost that wasn't talked about. I saw an agent post here locally that talked about, if an agent's not talking about mud, if a property's in a mud district or a PID, there's a lot of agents that don't even know what that is. They don't know that costs your client more money every single year. And I know there was even a class action lawsuit against it of not having the right disclosures in it in the past. And so this study talked about, also what share of home sales marginal agents are selling. So that it was made the assumption that these marginal agents selling less than 5 houses a year would sell
What percentage of the industry is these marginal agents according to this?
25 to 30% of sales.
30, 20, 30. I was just curious what the agent count
I don't know
was
what the
compared to the overall
I don't
agent
know.
count. Is this like the Pareto, like that type of thing, where it's
Yeah.
like this is like 80% of agents are doing 30% of the sales type of thing?
Yeah,
Correct.
That's a good point.
It doesn't talk about that. I don't know if they know 100%.
Probably not.
But they talked about the study also looked at what share of home sales marginal agents sold by price range. And they found that they were as likely or nearly as likely to sell high-priced homes as lower-priced homes. Because you would think that maybe the makeup of these marginal agents are representing or selling the lower-priced properties, and that wasn't the case.
No, that wasn't the case.
Thanks for echoing that, Brian. No, that was
affirming.
not the case.
It's called an
Yes.
affirmation.
Yes,
It's
yes.
really driving your point home. There's I guess one of the questions to ask though, the danger report. Going back to that for just a second, is when the flaw in it. Not the flaw is what is the biggest threat, right, to the industry, right? And it's not really the case, because it was could technology be it, and what sort of disruption and stuff, but it's really not a threat. It's what is the biggest vulnerability? The biggest vulnerability is that you have a certain amount of transactions available, diversified against too large of a population of agents, essentially, and so you have a really high amount of available transactions consumed by agents who aren't doing enough to actually make a living, which takes away those transactions from agents that are doing it full time. And so what that just means is that any disruption takes a harder route, because it's not hard to knock people out of an industry when they're not making enough money to stay in it already. And I say that only to say to this article.
By the way, it's by the Consumer. Go back up, Jesse.
Consumer
Federation of America. Consumer Federation of America.
Yeah,
sounds made
generic.
Yeah,
It sounds super made up,
Super
right?
generic. They are 100% owned by Vanguard.
Right.
Or
Let's find
it's probably NAR has probably a lot of money.
Yeah,
in it, right.
right.
So
Isn't
they're-
NAR the second largest public lobbyist?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I do want.
Second
You know what I do?
behind
yeah.
Here's what I do want to do. I think we need to put our hat in the ring for us four, because Jesse has to be there to produce it.
Yes.
For us to go in as all four co-CEOs of NAR.
Co-CEOs.
We're going to throw our resume in there.
Can we? Is that on LinkedIn? Can you apply?
You apply.
Because
I think you join your local board.
you saw the
and
C-
leadership first.
The
and work your way through
CEO is
that.
retiring.
I know.
Yeah.
They're
So-
actively looking.
So I
for
think we
anyone.
should all four go in. I mean,
He's quote retiring.
We've got.
yeah.
We have about 200 hours of tape that would prove otherwise.
Here's the interesting part of this report as well, is right. It talks about a large majority of practicing real estate agents have recently received their licenses or work part time. So they did bring up that a lot of these are. The majority of agents don't work full time, and their definition of a full time agent is working a median of 30 hours a week.
Which I don't mean to interrupt. That is just the biggest bullshit stat. You know how they come up with the 30 hours a week? They just ask a bunch of agents, how much do you work?
Agents,
Like,
what
I don't
they
know,
work.
30
Yeah.
hours?
Yeah.
30.
No one's time management is the biggest thing we talk about in real estate, because people don't do it well. You don't know how many hours a week you work.
Isn't the time flex the weirdest
work 80 hours a
gray
week.
area that real estate agents don't know really which one to say? You're torn between saying I only work 30 hours a week, look how slick I am,
Yeah.
as opposed to being bro, I crack every code all the time, 80 hours a week, hustle and grind. Nobody really knows what to say. So they're just I'm 30 hours. No.
Cut 30 years off my life, but I'm working 24/7. But they talk about in here a large majority of the practicing real estate agents have recently received their license or work part time. And in the report, it talks about these agents usually charge the same commission rates as experienced full-time agents, yet in general offer worse service and deprive experienced agents of the needed clients.
Where's that coming from, though? And I only ask because, yes, theoretically, it stands to reason that if you've done fewer transactions, you're not providing as good a service. But is there evidence in the article, or are they just saying that?
They're probably taking their information in some consumer report
Yeah.
and just smushing it together
Feels
for
like-
paragraph 4, right?
'Cause I would take, quite frankly, I would take a new agent who's asking a lot of questions of their mentors and things like that over an agent who's really set in their ways and does only 10 deals a year but thinks they know everything. So I think that stands to reason, but I also believe that's just an assumption that this report is making.
I think it's a good assumption, and it's in my experience of watching agents flounder
Probably
around.
true.
It's an accurate assumption, but there's outliers. The one thing about this report, again, I kind of like that we're doing this live, that I kind of want to shit on a little bit. Part of this is it was from the end of 21 and beginning of 22, and I think that's interesting, and it's also hilarious because I would have thought that at the end of 21, beginning of 22, that was peak probably insanity, right? And you still saw the average agents, whatever adjective we're using to describe this, right? Like the marginal agents only doing 5 deals, right? And then we see, if you're in real estate, you've seen everybody post the 60,000 agents have already left in the past year, right? Like, so wouldn't this be a better market? Like taking that, whatever that we give this data credit for, right? Showing that like back then agents were only doing 5 deals and there were an abundance of agents coming to the market. Now you've got stats that say agents are leaving the market. And I can tell you the average agent should be doing more than 4 or 5 deals in this market. Those deals are out there right now.
It talks about this in the report is the report is that real estate is essentially a zero-sum game. So as the number of agents rises, how much they make on average individually declines.
Yeah, it's a zero-sum game to the bottom 50%.
Well, for sure, but and that makes sense. I mean, think about how hard it is.
It's a zero-sum game just in the sense that having more real estate agents doesn't make more people sell their homes.
Correct.
Right. So that's all I'm saying.
Right, and so it says total homes sold and related aggregate commission income appears largely unrelated to the number of licensed agents, which makes sense because you can't. There's only so many home sales that are going to happen.
Isn't that interesting? Because you'll see in like some garage sale pages and just like consumer-driven pages where they're just shitting on real estate agents. They'll be like, real estate agents are the worst. They're out there driving up prices of homes, and it's like, no, kind of no matter what the market is, real estate agents are making about the same, and they suck equally. They're not right. The market's just doing what the market does.
They're usually the ones arguing with their sellers that they're priced too high.
Correct. Yeah,
exactly.
I've gotten so many arguments about that. Especially on Facebook.
I'm never like, dude, crank it up, bro. Let's get it.
That's the one comment section I don't go in because I know they're gonna go to my profile and be like, well, of course that's what you think. Look what your job is, and I'm like, all right, well, like, that actually gives me less credibility.
You're right. I'm like, know better.
I always ask the question. I'm like, if you were selling something, you're telling me you want to sell it at the absolute lowest price possible, or do you want to get the max number you can get? And they're like, well, of course I want the higher price. Well, no shit.
Yeah.
Right? You like put yourself in that situation. Let's be realistic here. So, I mean,
it's like all airline pilots drink on the job. No, we don't. You're like, what are you, a pilot?
Exactly.
Of course you cover up for your drinking, bastard.
So, I mean, let me ask this because we all have to start somewhere. I go back and remember when my first couple of years of selling properties, and I always was intimidated to go up against competition because I'm like, I don't have the history, I don't have the experience, I don't have the sales data.
Yeah. Right.
And I mean, I remember at times when I was competing against we'll call it like a Russell Rhodes type here locally who sells hundreds of property, 500-600 properties a year, and the only thing that I would use in saying is like, look, I am newer. I'm also more motivated and hungrier. So this sale means a lot more to me than possibly that agent does. And then I start building that book of business in the portfolio.
Can I talk candidly for a minute to give this conversation a little bit of validity, right? Like up until recently, I had a lot of stats that I could throw out in listing appointments that I no longer get to use, right? And it has been a interesting adjustment to the types of conversations that I have to have. And I'm just saying this to real estate agents in general. Whether you're a new agent or an agent like refocusing on the sales side of their business, right? Like this applies either way. There has been a ton of opportunity for me, to reconnect or connect with people that I had lost before because I had leaned too hard into things, right? And I had became not the best version of myself as a real estate agent. It's also reinvigorated that hunger part of knowing that you are relying on yourself, right? Like that part of it, there's something to be said there. And I think for real estate agents, whether you're new or not, looking at this as as an exercise in like people coming to you, because I did that for 2.5 years. And in the span of 45 days was put into a position where I got to change my thinking around that. And it has made a world of difference, not just in like how I'm talking to my clients and how involved I am and how much I care, right? Like, dude, I had a situation come up where the movers took the stove. It was an accident. The cabinets were being painted the day before closing. All the appliances were fucking unplugged. I blew in and blew out and told them to like, here's what you don't take. They got in the midst of taking some stuff. They grabbed the stove. Okay. That normally would have been something that as soon as that stove kind of like got taken away, I wouldn't have been involved too much more because the transaction was over. I had actually regressed to what Nick used to say he was as the one night stand type of agent, right? Like it was just the deal is over. I didn't really worry about that. It was shocking to me how easy it was to solve a problem when I had been involved in caring about the transaction. And I'm not saying agents don't care. I'm not saying that like new agents don't care. I think there's a really cool thing when you're deeply involved with how the transaction goes that is going to bring you more business. It's going to push you out of this marginal agent stage, which is where I've been hanging out, right? This marginal agent stage, and then you get to like have this like really cool connection with your clients that you can take forward and turn into referrals and whatever other business shit that we're talking about, right? And I only say that because I feel like we were in the chance of this whole episode just shitting on like agents who do 4 or 5 deals a year. If you can do 4 or 5 deals a year, you are lead generation away from 15 or 20. There is no difference between 4 and 5 or 17 and 18 or 20, right? There's absolutely no difference,
right,
except for your activities, right?
Follow up and referrals.
Yeah, do just that.
But I will say, and I should have read this report back in 2015. Their number one threat, the danger report detailed 50 threats, risks, and challenges the real estate industry faced. And the number one danger, what they predicted back in 2015, was masses of marginal agents destroy the reputation. Right, the report bluntly stated the real estate industry is saddled with a large number of part-time, untrained, unethical, and/or incompetent agents. This knowledge gap threatens the credibility of the industry. And an Inman survey later that year revealed that the respondents considered low-quality agents the industry's biggest threat.
Think about this when you're training agents or recruiting agents, and then I will give the mic back to somebody else, because this is something we have all accidentally said, because I didn't know that report existed either, for a long time. We are willing to come from contribution with every single thing that we do, because we are actually protecting our families through making agents better. Whether it doesn't have to be a partnership with us. It's just showing them how this actually works, eliminates them from being the type of agent who is on that list, and is the type of agent who ruins the industry. And when a real agent really does bring 6% worth of value, 7%, 5%, whatever you charge, right? Like when they really do bring that level of value, the marginal agents who come in and convince buyers and sellers that, you know what, I don't know why I paid that person $20,000. They spent $1,000. I never talked to them. I did my own price reductions. I followed up on my own feedback. Like those people are making it harder for good quality agents to go out there and do the best for their clients.
Do you think NAR, because we go back and it says NAR Thinks You Are, which is not the case, because this was done by the Consumer Federation of American Plants or whatever it is.
Sounds like a freaking alias for NAR so hard,
yeah,
though.
But
that's like when we go in and put our roots into other countries' militia groups to overthrow their own government.
There's always federation in there too. Federation, that's like the key word.
It's like, we're not involved.
Federation.
But do you think NAR really cares about this? Because NAR's money comes off of the marginal agents. They again, as the larger number of licensed real estate agents that also then join the National Association of Realtors, right? Their membership dues increase by the more licensed agents there are. And so do
you believe NAR protects commissions? Because then I'm all for, like, because I'm going to say this online or on I am that ugly American that likes being like just having the biggest stick in the room. Like I don't really care about, like, I'm not saying I don't care about anything, but like I appreciate that. If NAR is only making money off these marginal agents in order to protect commission for agents who drive the industry forward, are we mad about that?
That's kind of the in that same vein, like that's where my thought process was around all of this. Is like I mean, I think it's plain as day that all of this is a reality, right? Like when we talk about it harming the industry, right? Going to his point, it's like, okay, like this is all relevant and empirical fact or whatever, but like 30% of commissions or deals are absorbed by people that do less than 5 deals, and they see that as a detriment. Okay, what do you do? Because the reality is, if we're just adhering to the laws of capitalism, over time, better service should mean that those marginal agents do fewer deals and people are gravitating more towards better agents like they would doctors or lawyers. If that's not happening, whose responsibility is to change that? And what do you even do? Or are we just kind of bitching?
Is it a barrier to entry conversation, right?
So
not financially, but training wise.
So I think that's one of the questions that is brought up is that right now, should there be a higher barrier of entry?
Can you guys tell me, though, because I actually talked to new agents about this, or even agents who are thinking about getting their license, and kind of explain the process. I'm like, look, the state and the NAR have to do some due diligence because of what you're being allowed to do. You can go into people's homes. You're helping with very large transactions, right? Like, so they have some culpability in making sure you're a competent human being. But after that, isn't this just really a CYA situation? Like, what knowledge could you teach beyond what they currently teach? Like,
well, that's actually, I think a lot though, and that actually speaks to this is like, it is funny that NAR put out like the danger report and stuff like that. Like, but isn't it also a running joke in the industry that what they teach you in real estate school doesn't have a fucking thing to do with building a
how
real
many
estate
square feet are in an
business?
acre? That's
so
every
NAR's
meme,
like,
right?
why do we have so many agents that aren't selling that many houses? Because we don't know what meets and bounds is, and we don't care.
And brokerages are not incentivized for
true.
agents to make money.
Yeah, there's a whole economic model.
Yeah,
that
the
maybe doesn't make
economic
sense.
model's not great.
But that was the race. That's the race to the bottom,
Of course.
here, right? So that started really. I mean, when Keller Williams started in '83, I think they went to more of a capping model,
Right.
And once you started doing that, then you've got the copycats. The same thing as when Keller Williams started with profit share. Then you started other companies, and then EXP comes out with revenue share. And now you've got the spinoff on all those, and so
You're sort of continuing to make the case for fewer agents, non-capping models. It sounds like you're talking about platforms.
Yes, which is what it's starting to move back into, right? So the target's always moving, and it goes back into 50-50 commissions and offering better services and better resources, better technology.
The problem, the gap in that though, is agents understanding that they need that, because what typically happens, especially with new agents, right? Like, is you just don't know what you don't know. We've watched I believe there have been multiple people who could have been really amazing real estate agents who just didn't make it through their first 18 months because they didn't have the right direction. And then some happened to have the right direction. Then some were just really great at what they did and probably would have had success on their own, right? I think we make a really large assumption, like in assuming that agents are going to figure out what they need to do next, and also that they need to stay in a specific place for very long. All of us, I don't know about your beginning brokerage thing, but we all moved from our original brokerage relatively quickly. I don't know Nick's situation. I don't know if you're always Keller Williams and then went to EXP.
No, I was at an independent I started out as an unlicensed assistant, then got licensed in 06, and then joined KW at the end of 07.
And I know Brian was here and then left and then came back, and then I was with a couple of smaller brokers like yours. What I'm saying is, like, those first 3 to 4 transactions are almost essential that you get under your belt in some kind of solo situation, for nothing else other than the fact that you will now have something to fucking compare it to. Because that is the hardest conversation to have with somebody, is around why they don't understand why they need the systems and leverage they need, and why other people may not, right? I think every agent should attempt, even with a mentor or whatever, right? Keller Williams, EXP, they both offer mentorship programs, should be trying to do something on their own, a couple of transactions for free, or on their own, just to see how that goes. And at the very end of that 4th transaction, if you are still struggling to figure everything out, or that 4th transaction is 8-9 months away, you should absolutely join a team.
Well, let me ask you this, and because when we talk about joining a team, we're just talking about a commitment to your business in one way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Right? This is one of the things, you did this earlier, and this is not a shit on you, it's just that we bring up this analogy a lot, and so I'm just using it as an example. I just did
shitting on me.
No. I'm just bringing something to light. I was just doing the math on my phone. I've always said this off the cuff, but I've never actually done the math before. Like, let's just say 6 million home sales nationwide, and let's also just make the assumption that, like, a good, healthy full-time income for somebody that puts in the type of work that a full-time agent does would be like $75,000 a year. That's about what you would make if you put the exact same amount of effort into the corporate world. So $75,000 a year. That means at 6 million home sales, you only need 800,000 realtors nationwide for them to average that amount of money. I used to say that without even doing the math, I figured like we probably need less than 1 million. Like 800,000 realtors could probably take care of everything. And so how do you get there? One of the things that we do, we're talking about realtors and they're like the part-time agents, and you were talking about, like, would you go to a surgeon, that only does 3 or 4, surgeries a year,
but charges the same price.
Charges the same. The only reason that analogy doesn't make sense is because you know why you wouldn't have a surgeon that only does 3 or 4 deals a year? Because it takes 7 years to become a surgeon and like $300,000. So if you're going to commit to that, there's a much smaller amount of people that are going to commit to that career, and so the business is there. The same thing with law. We talk about this all the time in real estate. We're like, we should be on the same plane as like attorneys and stuff. Go to fucking law school for 3 years then, right? Commit yourself. And so I'm not saying that we need to have 3-year-long real estate school. I am also saying that if NAR wants to solve what we talk about it potentially believing is a problem, it might take just raising the bar of even getting into the business.
What if you, hold on, I want you to go next, because all right, so let's not compare to doctor or attorney. Let's compare to someone who cuts hair.
Okay, 1,500 hours in Texas.
A lot more than what is required.
Yes.
To become a real estate agent.
You got to have a
1,500 hours.
15. Yes. Google it.
That
Jesse.
is
barber school Texas
compared
hours.
to real estate agents.
Fucking crazy.
Our shit is not even.
So the barrier and the Inman comments. That's what most of the people are commenting is until minimum standards are raised, nothing will change. And so, it's 1,000 hours.
1,000. Okay, at least
barber
1,000,
instructors must have at least 750 hours. So think of it this way: is that if from someone who's cutting hair, they all charge different prices, right? And so if you go to I don't even know a different name. I go to some lady I follow around.
Are you talking about a bad one or a good one?
Go to a lower end one.
Oh, Pro Cuts.
Pro Cuts. What is that? $12. $12 a haircut versus someone who has invested a lot of time and energy into their business, and they're going to charge a lot higher rate. Well, if that's a part-time haircutter and they're charging the same amount as that person who's invested a lot, who's cut thousands of people of hair every year or whatever. I don't know. I'm just
talking about tattoos before.
Then I walk back what I said 20 minutes ago. Is training not the issue? Because here's what I hear myself thinking in my head right now. I would absolutely, as a high producing agent, pay NAR twice the dues per year to eliminate half the agents.
Katie has something. So Katie talks
about...
Like
if it's just a money thing, right? Like, I would say that every really solid producing agent would be willing to pay NAR twice the amount per year if they said that will thin the herd by 30 to 40%.
Or should there be an internship period? And how would that look? So
think
appraisers,
inspectors and appraisers.
Inspectors and appraisers, they have to go. You can't just become an inspector. You've got to go as a journeyman or whatever they call it.
Like we're just talking about attorneys.
Yes.
You don't get to just go to law school and the day after graduation, you're just a full-fledged salaried lawyer. You usually, you're either a paralegal while you're in school. You do massive amount of internships for the 3 years that you
Depends
are
on the
in.
law school, though. So it depends on the law school. It doesn't require all that. There's ways around.
Misspoke. Doesn't require if you actually want to make a good living. There's also a lot of lawyers that make $50,000 a year.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying if you want to make a real good living.
Let me ask you this question though. So Kelvin, you've said it 3 times, I believe now, is about the training.
Yeah.
I would go out on a pretty far limb to say the training is there, and I think there's a lot of amazing training out there. I think all the training that brokerage offers is good enough to get somebody started. Is someone coming into this business coming in and are they listening to the training, sitting through, and they're like, ooh, I don't really want to do this part.
Yes.
So
it always comes back to the mentality and lack of desire to take action.
I don't think that there's a problem with training. I think to be successful in this industry, there's really a few ways to really, really become successful, to sell more than 5 houses a year.
All the training is free in abundance. Right? Like Brian said this for years. Google will show you how to run ads on their platform if you read their shit, right? And it's the same thing for everything. What we want is we want a nicely neat little package, and we want it to be presented in a way that doesn't hurt our feelings. And we definitely want to do it differently than whatever causes us pain, right? Like that's really what you're dealing with as a barrier to your success.
Look, to start to be a successful real estate agent, it's the same way to probably be a successful network marketing MLMer.
Sure.
Right? You're hitting up your friends, telling your friends to be your advocate and mouthpiece and yell it out to the world that if anybody thinks real estate, buying, selling, investing, to bring it back to me, and you're just going to have to bombard them.
There are people in our social media world and people that we roll with that I think are corny as hell. Right? Just turbo corny in how they present themselves. I'm not doing that. And how they present themselves, how they market themselves. And if I'm being super honest, I'm probably just hating on the fact that they are so comfortable being themselves and just asking people if they're interested in what they're doing and if they want to be a part of it, to where I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, I would never approach. If you find yourself watching somebody else who's successful and getting people to say yes, and you find yourself thinking, man, that shit's dumb, I'd never do it that way, and you're not doing anything at all, you are 1,000% your problem,
you're just a hater.
Not that other person. You are just, and I found myself doing that. I'm like, man, that's corny as shit. I'd never go over there and do this thing. And I'm like, man, that worked super good.
And then
I should probably do that, right?
But I agree with what you're saying as far as the building of the business aspect, right? This all would be easier if that was already happening. Meaning, like, what you guys are saying is like, well, if the upper 70% or whatever were just a lot more gung-ho at building their business, they would just consume the lower 30% and so on and so forth.
They kind of do, because that's the part that
A lot of times they do.
That
yeah.
is the plankton
it's
of our industry.
It's not the same 30% every year, by the way. So you make a good
It's
point.
not the same marginal agents every
No,
year.
it churns.
But that's what we're kind of talking about, like the NAR and the training aspect of it. Like the training, because what the article was saying was like a downside. And if you pull it up, it's like, what is the cost of this? And it's like the consumer gets a worse experience and all that type of stuff. Okay, what if they didn't? What if, and this is also technically possible, what if there was a lot of agents doing less than 5 deals a year, but the training out there, as far as going through your school and getting your license and stuff, equipped you to still do quality transactions for the consumer?
You'd have to pay for trainers, and brokerages don't want to do that.
And you could, that's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, like, what excuse would we have then?
They want to get
Meaning,
whatever
like,
agent's kind of capping into like teach
Yeah.
their next freaking class.
Because if you were saying that if we just raise the standard of like the barriers to entry, the training had to be better, so that whether you're doing 100 transactions or 5 transactions, you still really knew what you were doing. Well, then the only answer to smooth this out is communism, apparently, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about training as far as building your business and doing more business. I'm talking about like the consumer experience. I don't always believe that because you do fewer deals, you do a worse job. But when we're talking about how to solve this problem, isn't it on NAR to make sure, or whomever, that all their agents are equipped to actually provide quality service? It's like they're the ones giving out the real estate licenses, and they're like, a bunch of our people aren't doing good enough. It's like, well, train them better.
Here's
We
what
go
I
to
will
your
say.
school.
Here's what I will say is that, because you said, like, I'm not saying if they do less, they're worse agents. I will say over time they would be. Just like if you face 1,099 mile an hour fastballs, you are going to get better at timing that fastball than I am, right?
Right.
Like if I'm only doing it, a marginal amount of times compared to what you're doing, and I think that's. I don't know. Like that's where agents need to kind of get out of their feelings, right? If you find yourself in this space that we're talking about, and you don't understand to get out, like nobody's like talking shit to you. It's just more at bats is better. And the initial part about getting more at bats is putting yourself in more uncomfortable situations, whatever it looks like, right? Like whatever is making you uncomfortable. We've said this before, and I probably haven't said it for 20 episodes. If whatever's making you currently uncomfortable is probably the absolute next thing you need to focus on in your business, right? Like it's probably the next place you need to look for your next opportunity.
And are we okay with just having marginal agents? Is this just the way
Okay,
we
with having them,
accept
I'm not
it?
okay with being one.
Well, here,
Well,
like,
I mean, there's
here-
always exceptions to the rule. Right?
mathematically, there will always be marginal agents.
just because there's going to be somebody below the performance line. Yes,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean?
Of course.
Absolutely, yeah,
If we
yeah.
get rid of them, we only go to 800,000 agents. We'll be like, there's
Now
a big
you're like,
problem.
everybody doesn't sell 10 subs.
30% is doing 15 or less a year. We're like, we need to
Fucking
go to only
hacks.
500,000. They're all millionaires.
Yeah,
Like,
because if you raise the barrier for entry,
By the way, if you're doing
raise,
15, you're not a hack. That's solid. Right.
or if you raise the cost every year, 15 is like you're doing 5. So
Yeah.
now you're just paying someone else. You might as well start the membership
it's
company.
a catch-22 no
Of
matter
course.
what you do.
That's why you watch this show, because then you get the information and you know where you stand, right? There are a lot of agents out there who don't understand, like, when they're doing. We've all had this conversation with agents who would like do 20 deals in their first year, and they're like, "Man, I just want to do more." I'm like, "Let me explain to you how bad you just crushed real estate in your first year. Like, 20 deals
get
is like no
big-headed,
joke
but,
for
like, hey,
anybody.
yeah.
But that's a lot, right? Like, so
be
agents
proud of
just know,
yourself.
like, just
Yeah.
know where the numbers are, so you can
proud of
feel good about yourself and keep
Well,
moving.
and if you're depending on what type of business you're building, if you're building a team, you could go build a team of. I hate to use the word marginal, but you could go build a teamerage or brokerage. I know brokerages that have built their entire business model off of part-time agents, and guess what? They were profitable, and the agents were there.
Did you guys ever used to watch Flight of the Conchords?
Yes.
I just watched an episode for
the
the
sock
first time.
song.
The sock song and then part-time model.
Yeah.
You could be
There's a song about doing it with your socks on or something. Like, it's fucking hilarious. People from New Zealand are wild
It
ass.
holds up.
But I do think there's an opportunity to build a business
Yeah.
off of that, right? So you could build a teamerage or a platform.
I mean, you got 30% of the industry. The numbers are there.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you have 100 agents on your teamerage that does 5 home sales a year, that's 500 total sales that you're having.
Yeah.
And then ultimately that starts coming into, hey, how do you help them make more money? And that's where you either get them increasing their sales or you start bringing in other ancillary revenue. There's a whole bunch of other paths that you can take them down. I'm not saying that marginal agents are bad.
No, you brought this to both of our attention a long time ago, and the way that you put it, you had always talked about how you'd could you build a team of like 5 agents who are just absolutely crushing it head over heels, or more agents that are essentially doing less? And you weren't talking about agents doing one deal, but you always talked about having, more agents who are still up and coming, as we'd call them, for a couple of reasons. One, selfishly, as a team leader, you're diversifying your production across a greater number of agents, but also you have bigger upside. It's very difficult to take a 75-unit producer to 175.
Yes.
There's only so many hours in the day and levers you can pull. It's relatively easy to take a 5-unit producer to a 15 or 20-unit producer.
Correct.
So you're quadrupling your output if you can do that across, and you're making a massive difference in their lives.
Look, it's my fear with that, though, is like that kind of model is you end up becoming the farm system for the Yankees, right? Like that's the problem with that model is you are constantly trying to find talent in single A and double A, and then getting that shit pilfered from you down the road.
Maybe. It depends on what you create.
You're right. I'm not looking at this from all angles. I'm just saying it seems harder to create community and stickiness with lots of people, and so you're going to have people who just eventually like, nobody here loves me, I'm gone.
You have to have your
Like,
blend of both. You got to have your pillars. I agree.
Yeah.
I think we've all at this table seen all sides of this.
Absolutely.
Point, right?
Absolutely.
But think of it this way: if you're building a team and you get to a point, it's like owning. Let's say it's like owning a storage business, and you own 200 units in that storage business, and a $5 a month increase across all 200 to you as the owner is massive. To that individual tenant, that storage renter, $5 shouldn't break the bank on
why Lifetime Fitness exists.
Yes.
It's also
Or
why flipping
Planet
sucks
Fitness,
and
whichever one's the
multifamily's
cheaper
great.
one. Yeah.
Well, Lifetime is a lot more expensive.
Then it's Planet Fitness.
Planet
Fitness model is we'll give you a pizza. I mean, Alex Hormozy talks about this, right? We'll charge you $12, give you a pizza every month, and you'll think that you're just crushing it.
Exactly.
Right?
And so from a team building that team model is you get 100 agents on the team, and you then you put let's call it what's the word, a trainer, or what's the other production,
like a
director of sales, something of that sort, and you get 30% of your agents selling 2 to 3 more houses. I mean, that's to the bottom line. That's a lot.
It is. It sounds exhausting.
From whom?
Whoever has to worry about it.
I mean, I think if that
Whoever has to worry
I think
about
if you go down
the
that-
churn at the bottom, the replacing them, the keeping them happy, the like what it sounds
I think that's you're always having
like a kick in the dick. It does not sound
there's
fun.
always something. I don't think we've ever
Everybody
said
just
that
go
on the-
watch.
Yes.
I mean, watch
Yeah.
podcast episode 1 and then watch today and see how much older we look.
Yeah.
And then you're right.
Got a presidential situation
it's
going on
exhausting.
here.
Here's what I'll say. Either way to build the business is exhausting,
That's true.
right? And the number one way to look at this is that when a sale is over and you've completed that, you are now back to zero.
Yes.
When the month starts over, let's say you sold 10 houses in 1 month, the best month you've ever had. Guess what? When the first of the month comes around, the clock goes back to zero.
You and I had a conversation just transactionally the other day about just putting deals on the board, right? And we were both like, I don't have an August deal. And it's so funny to think about. Like, I don't think of any of us sitting at this table worrying about August money, right? And you still look at it and you're like, I don't have a deal that's closing in August. Like, where's my August deal going to come from, right? Like,
nothing in that regard has changed with everything that's changed in the last year or so. Nothing has changed about the idea that no matter how well you're doing, you are always in this business just sure that the world is falling apart in 90 days.
there's going to be like a deal that closes. This deal that you were excited about on Thursday that closed on Friday, by Monday is the source of your anxiety because now it's closed.
Yes, exactly.
And I've got to go find another one, right?
You already went to dinner and had fun, and now game has started again.
And you and I talked about this a lot as far as the restaurant internal clock, right? Knowing when drinks haven't hit the table, knowing when the food hasn't hit the table. Real estate, it's a longer clock, right? But if like that is that same feeling in the back of your head, like something more needs to happen. There's something missing.
Longer
There's not
clock,
this.
but it's the same moment in time.
It is the
where
same
you're
moment
like,
in time, yeah.
I'm behind now.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm
like it's the
officially
same
behind.
instant that happens at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday where you're like, I'm fucking behind now.
Yeah, I was fine. I just got 3 tables, and all of a sudden I'm so underwater I have no idea what's happening. Like,
I would also, because I look at the broker metrics report almost every day, and I'm looking at agents' business, and the majority of agents' businesses from last year to this year, they're all down.
I believe that.
But when I ask them about their business, the way they talk about it and the way they think their business, they would actually, and how much they say they're working, They believe they are up. And most of these agents are down 30 to 40 to 50%.
The amount they're working conversation, I have no even potential like understanding of. But dude, I will tell you, this market is so much nicer. For those of us who just do not want to just get punched in the face consistently by things that you can't really overcome, like massive like appraisal guarantees and things like that. This market is like, I'm not working with a single buyer right now because I just think interest rates have chased some off and I'm not chasing them right now. But I'm having an amazing conversation with my sellers to get their home sold, that people who are practical, like they need to leave, right? Like there's still a lot to do in this market. And it feels more like you're working as opposed to just looking at your clients and be like, guys, I just go 100 over and let's waive everything. And if you don't get that, I'll go show you 9 more fucking houses next week.
It's like throwing a dart in the dark room and hoping that you hit the balloon, the only balloon in there to pop it.
Yes.
Right? And you're throwing it with a dull dart.
Yes.
In a pitch black.
Yeah. And there's some dickhead who has on infrared glasses swatting your dart away last time with his client's absurd offer, right? Like he's just he fully knows what's going on because he's just over it and he just smacks your crap out of the way every time.
So look, I would venture to say that that danger report was 2015. It's 8 years later, and the report then was talking about marginal agents. I have a feeling in 2033 when we're doing the show of episode whatever 6,000.
We'll only be 25,000 behind Rogan at that point,
right?
Yeah.
Is that we're still going to be talking about marginal agents?
Yes.
Well, this is, and we can wrap it up with this. Is like I was going to ask you. We talked about this earlier today or yesterday. We talk about when rates get back to normal, like 3.5%, which is not normal at all. Do you think that I think you believe that rates are going to stay higher for longer, and then 2. Like we were just, like you were just talking about, right? Like it's got to make sense for your buyers. Do we believe that this whole marginal agent thing might tend to start to work itself out over time, just based on the environment of the market is set up for experts right now?
Sure, I think it's set up for experts and agents that want to. Again, I'll wear this saying out: money changes hands when problems are solved. And while Kelderman's saying this market is easy. It's
fun. It's not easy.
It's fun. Because it requires problem-solving skills.
Yes.
That was not problem-solving skills.
Yes.
And so, I think it's going to be, my belief is that even these marginal agents, if they pour into themselves and they are logical thinkers and they have some type of problem-solving ability at a decently high level, then they will be fine in this market, in any marketplace. I have a little concern from a interest rate standpoint that I don't think that I disagree with an attorney buddy of mine yesterday. He thinks it's 2026 before we see rates really come down to a 5% level. I don't think it's that long out. I don't think we're getting anything lower at the end of the quarter or the end of this year, because they talked about, look, rates coming down in 24 and 23, and in 24 we're back in that high 5s, low 6s.
Still makes those 2-1 buy downs kind of sexy though.
Based on based on what? Also, we do this thing that we love talking about shit that's going to happen 3 years from now because it just sounds very official. Like, look, it's probably going to be like 2026.
Man, I wish we have AI go back and watch all our other episodes and just fact check us.
Wrong we were back
from like 2018 to now.
How about last year?
Yeah, no shit.
You know what I have a problem with, and you just brought something up that it really just fucking chaps me. Is that the agents and lenders they talk about this interest rate buy down and they truly don't get it. And so I'm trying to sell a flip property of mine, and I've been following up with this agent who supposedly has an interested buyer, and it's going on for almost 10 days now. And yesterday she was like, they're still they're still looking. They haven't made an offer, but really their budget's $250. I said, okay, well, we're listed at $279, so really there's a huge gap there. And I said, okay, so are they looking at $250 because they want that $250,000 monthly payment?
Right.
And she said yes. I said, okay. I said, I've copied Mortgage Mike on this. Go to mmgloans.com. So that's a plug for Mortgage Mike of Texas. MMG.
It's also how you work your lender into a deal, folks.
Yeah, mmgloans.com. So I CC'd him on the email. And I was like, hey, we can do an interest rate buy down. I just helped a client who bought a home for $424,000. We got $10,000 in closing costs, so it's a net sales price of $414 to the homeowner, and it was like that. My buyer purchasing that home for $372,000. So let's get on a call with Mortgage Mike. Let's figure out this interest rate buy down program so that it's going to sell higher than $250 because I can't come down to $29,000, but we can find a happy middle ground that I'm still making the money that I need to make. Or really want to make on it, and your buyer is getting a payment that they want. Crickets.
Of course.
And I'm trying to solve this problem so she doesn't have to go out and go show houses.
Because the agent would rather try and like pay back that lender for lunch and whatever BS leads his $2 an hour VA fronted over to her, right? Like that's the only reason for that. Because
the agent would rather go make offers on cheaper properties too, that they have a chance of actually getting, right?
But I will say the amount of times that agents let their personal relationships with vendors get in the way of deals getting done. This is a problem, and I don't mean this to any of our vendors. This is a problem that will never get in the way of a deal of mine.
Super true.
This will never get like I love my title company. Title is not going to be a reason a seller doesn't sell their house.
Yeah.
Right? Like I love my lender. That is not going to be a reason one of my buyers cannot get into a house. Sorry, I'll get you on the next one.
If I
this
walk
person solved this
into
problem.
the store and they don't have the yerba mate tea I want,
I'm going to find wherever
a different
they find
store.
the Yucatan tea.
Yeah. I don't hate your store. I'm just looking for something specific that will solve the problem that I have right now, and that's that I don't have my tea I want.
Just don't be that agent. Like, don't push back against the other side of the transaction because you think somebody has to lose in order for you to
Goes
win.
back to marginal agents.
It does, dude. It does. How about stomping on your left foot with your right foot? That's about
What do they call that
possible.
What do they call that in the radio and television? We're like,
Callback?
We're bringing them back.
Bringing
we're
them back
wrapping
to
it. I don't
sports.
even know. That's not the right word.
I don't know. This is not a professional show.
It needs to be because we're 191 episodes in. We're 9 away from 200.
Nobody wants that shit.
They love it.
They want the show.
They're asking for more.
They are.
They want us to do this 24/7.
They did. I heard somebody said, "Why don't you guys on Twitch just live streaming all day?" And I was like, I got stuff to do.
No, because we have to create a Twitch. I don't even have one of those.
I don't even know what that is.
Are we still doing Twitch?
I'm on Threads.
Am I on Discord?
Are you doing Threads?
I signed up for Threads and then immediately left because it was Twitter. And you know what, guys? Can we just address Threads? Nobody needs to hear that, like, just that dumb thought that you try and, like, thesaurus your way into sounding smart. Like,
yes.
That's the only reason Twitter existed. Now Threads exists. Like, I just
don't
don't
understand
get it.
what we're doing with all this because even those thoughts I could just put on my wall on Facebook.
Nobody cares that
But
much.
is it the opportunity to get in early? And
what was the audio one we did? This with
it doesn't
Clubhouse?
transition?
No, I won't be. You know what? I got in Facebook in like 2011. I'm fine.
Is it working for you?
I'm not clubhousing Threads.
Let's bring
I am
Clubhouse
not
back.
clubhousing Threads.
Yes,
I'm not
Clubhouse
doing
is
it.
back.
All of you guys are clubhousing again.
Clubhouse was a great experiment in proving that people do not want to listen to non-famous people talk.
No.
Correct.
If you're still
just the
on
truth,
Clubhouse, tell me why
Yeah.
you don't have better things to do with your time.
Because
I don't
people that
understand.
already had a following killed it on Clubhouse. No one started a Clubhouse channel that was successful that wasn't already successful in anything else. People don't want to just hear your dumb voice unless they already follow you somewhere else.
And just hear you argue with other numbnuts that you decide to start a room with. You realize how annoying it is to be on a, like, we try really hard not to talk over each other on this show, and we still don't do a very good job. You know how annoying it is just to have hear three people yelling at each other?
And you don't know who's talking.
No.
That was the
Yes.
thing about Clubhouse that people don't realize is, like, understand, we're not even that good at it. We've been doing it for 6 years. Not being able to see other human beings, the amount of talking over them that you do, it's not even your fault.
whatever, Brian.
It's just, and that's what I always say, we're not that good at it. I'm the worst culprit, and I can see you guys. It's because I had to do this. You can look down the aisle.
Brian always has been middle guy.
Yeah, and that's tough.
I strategically placed myself on an end very, very long ago, and I just maintained my position. Whenever we have a guest, Brian is always on camera with a guest.
Yep.
I managed that situation at the last studio too. Like, I've always just been really good at just having the camera off me for a good amount of time.
Anyway, that's why Clubhouse sucks.
Jesse has to leave.
Yeah, he's got to leave in 2 minutes. So go support our vendors. Mortgage Mike of Texas. So just go to mmgloans.com or mortgagemikeoftexas.com because that's what the banner says right now before we update it.
Dude, ever heard of redirects?
Yeah. Maybe tell him that.
Yeah.
Is it really an HTTP site? It's not even secured?
Nah.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I didn't even know what that
noticed
meant.
that for the first time in like 3 years.
Uh-oh.
The new one is.
Sorry, Mortgage Mike.
MMG Michael of
SecureLoans.com. Yes. And then Theron Smith, Armadillo Home Warranty. Get that hard shell protection on your house. They've got that one-page contract. And, he'll throw in a free shirt. So armadillo.1/Tor, Tore. And then last but not least, Dana Wynn at Homeward DFW, the best property management in Dallas-Fort Worth. HomewardDFW.com. Send her all of your properties that need to be managed.
Hundreds at a time. She loves them.
Yeah, we're onboarding a lot right now.
More the merrier.
So,
Yeah, Homeward's blowing up.
yeah. All right.
Okay.
Next week, 192.
192. I'll
Yeah.
see you guys Wednesday.
Love you.
Laters. Hurry up. Make it go.
What,
You're
does
supposed
the
to be ready.
computer freeze?
Why are we still here?
Jesse Bits.
Later.
Thanks for watching the show today.
Something's
Make sure if
Clicked
you're watching
it,
this on
nothing's
phone.
good. Oh my gosh.
Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one. And then go to that one. Thanks.